going through this album, the first thing that really kind of grabs your attention and hooks me, anyways, is there are times when your voice has this really kind of cool uh, warbling effect, trembling effect, or something to it. I mean, it's like you have somewhere in your chest cavity your own effects pedal system. I don't know what it is, but it it's
There are effects on the music.
yeah. But there's something about the way when you're holding a note and you can you can bend it in different ways, and I'm curious how much of that is intentional and planned and how much of it is just you as you sing.
Wow, it's a good question. I don't like consciously, uh, think, well, I really need to turn this here or do that there. It just kind of happens. It's just kind of instinct, I would say. And I guess when you do, write these songs and you go through them, though, you kind of get to the, you try different things and you see kind of what works. But yeah, it's more, it's I would say it's more instinctual, and you kind of go through it and you maybe do it a few different ways and figure out what works the best, and then you know, kind of stick to that recording at least, and then that kind of goes out the window when you're playing live, of course, when you want to do something a little different. But you know,
Yeah.
hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah. And a number of the songs on this album are full stories. You're taking people. I mean, every song kind of takes people on a journey, but this one, it's like, okay, there's an actual characters and a plot, and it's not something you come across as much anymore. It tends to be stuff with older country music and things of that nature. But and I'm wondering, is it a different writing process for you to write a song like that? And also, does it just pop into your mind as a story, or is it just, you decide, well, maybe this should be more a story and less, I don't know, seeming autobiographical?
Well, it's interesting, and my answer to that, I think, is that it really is kind of song to song, Chris. I think what I would say is some songs. I guess what I would first of all say is I rarely write a song that starts with the lyrics or the meaning to it. It really always really starts with the hooks and the music and the message, from me. And then you typically you'll find something that'll latch onto it. And if it's something personal that 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 I feel like fits and kind of starts that story, then I'll kind of go down that road and tell that story. Or sometimes it'll be a song, that is kind of okay. That really sounds like maybe you're alluding to some of these things. Some of them are very personal. Some of them have nothing to do with me whatsoever. They just to me sound cool, and
Yeah.
they are what I think would be cool with that particular music. And so for that, depending on on what it sounds like, that's kind of the way that I'll go down that road. Like for example, I said don't go down that road, basically.
Yeah.
So that's kind of yeah, that's kind of a full blown story about about addiction, and it's about not the stories about this gambling addiction, but really trying for it to be like an overall metaphor for, hey, don't go down the wrong path, if you will. Don't go down that road. So when it
Yeah.
so that yeah, hopefully that kind of answers the question.
And also, it's a fascinating skill set because it's like with that song, number one, you can picture the bar, and you can kind of see it playing as a film in your head. And yet, when you go back and you listen to it again, you realize, well, it's not a huge amount of lyrics. And I'm wondering how long it took you to develop that skill to, okay, in just two lines, I can set this scene and you will see it in your mind.
Well, first of all, I really appreciate the compliment. But I don't know that. I guess Chris, we're sitting here in part of this. I'm releasing my first album here. Not exactly when normal artists release their first album. So
Right.
and actually, but I think I have a lot of advantages in that side because I have had so much experience. I've listened to so much music, so many different genres, and had a long time to play with things and play music and write music and so forth. So I think it's just kind of the culmination of what you hear on the lyric side and the musical side. It's just kind of a culmination of a lifetime of all that stuff. And when you start, when you produce your first album later in life, like I do, you get the benefit of drawing from a lot of different stuff, as opposed to somebody who's kind of, whatever, 21-year-old jumping out there. It's a different mind. They're in a different place, and luckily,
Yeah.
hopefully that comes across, in the music, so.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm finding more and more, especially with musicians, well, artists of any kind, really. It's when they develop that kind of maturity, their editing gets a lot better,
Yeah.
and they know how to say more with fewer words or even fewer notes at times.
Right. I would say it's not like I'm trying for a quantity, Chris.
Hmm.
But it's more like just a fit, right? It's a fit. And, you write songs and you're trying to say something and you want it to, for me anyway, if you wanted to like really write, to your point, if you wanted to really make a point, you could write 3 paragraphs, right, about something, but you only have a small window, right? A certain phrasing, area to say something. And so you have to get creative and get it across to your point in that period of time. And you could use different words, you can force different words, and you got to, you make decisions. You choose the right ones that not only are meaningful, but in my mind also fit the phrasing and the melody in that part of the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've come back to this before in interviews, but there's this book Stephen King wrote called On Writing, which is part autobiography and part his philosophy and what he's learned over the years as far as writing. And part of it was, how he learned to be much more concise. And that's even in, prose format where theoretically you have way more space. But he just found if you can paint a scene with, just tiny details here and there instead of over explaining it,
Mhm.
it gives the reader, and in this case the listener,
Mhm.
more room to enter the scene, so to speak.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. It's amazing. It's amazing to hear that Stephen King thinks he's concise. I mean, does he have any books that are less than 800 pages long? I mean, that's I mean,
Right.
that's interesting. But I know exactly what you're saying. And it's like I said, I'm never trying to be concise or elaborate either way. It's just to me what fits that song or that part of the song, at that moment,
Yeah.
at a minimum that you're getting across what you want to get across.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of building on what you said a minute ago. I read this part of your bio where you said I've been doing deep dives into almost every musical genre for my entire life.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about is what might be a genre someone would be surprised to find out that you did a deep dive into.
Oh man, how long is this podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I went. I don't know. I was in a huge bluegrass dive. I mean, these musicians in my mind are the best on the planet. And they are the pickers in bluegrass. Are just mind blowing. And frankly, I kind of picked it up on a, kind of later. It's something that's these people have been doing it their whole lives. They've got this incredible skill set, and when you hear them play, it just comes out. And man, I just dove into that like I don't know, for a year. Just finish it and listen. I have a tendency to not listen to anything else. Well, I'll just go bluegrass again, and I'll just hit it.
Mm,
That when I was younger, I mean, when a lot of people were listening to, in the 80s or whatever, when I was, younger, I was listening to Elvis Presley,
mm.
old Elvis type stuff. I love old rock and roll. I tend to gravitate backwards towards old stuff. I did a huge deep dive. I was into R&B. I was huge into Motown, and
Oh,
blues stuff. So I love the whole soul side of things. Anything soulful to me is, that's kind of the essence of music to me. So
yeah.
that's what, so that whole, R&B scene, especially the old school stuff, very influential, for me.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, one of the other quotes I saw from you is you said it's when people really release their soul into the
Yep.
music that you get chills.
Yep.
And I'm wondering is what's the key to learning how to do that? Because
God.
it's like,
Yeah. Man, I think any songwriter performer would love the answer to that, because I think that's the ultimate goal, right? When you're playing something and someone hears it and they literally get chills, down their spine. I mean, for me, that's what I love in art, music or art or anything else. But when I hear a song and something is just soulful, and you can just tell when it's just coming deep down from somebody, and you just feel it, and you just whoa, you get that chills. And that's what you're trying to, when you're writing songs and you're trying to sing, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get the other, other people to feel that way. And you can only get that really in real life when you're playing live. Sometimes you're playing live and you connect with somebody, could be one person in the audience, but you really see that they're into it. That's just, that's kind of the ultimate, that's what people, that's why you do art, I guess.
yeah. It also seems like really scary, though, in the sense of, I mean, live performing in general has a fear factor to it. But,
Yeah.
When everyone going through daily life has these masks that they wear as a deflection point. And I know you're, with songs, you're talking through metaphor and everything. But again, if you're really putting your soul into it,
Yeah.
you're kind of, opening your heart and becoming vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that would be a really difficult hurdle to clear. Was that for you, or were you always okay to do that?
Well, I would say that this album, absolutely, was, because I put everything in. I mean, as good as I can do. I mean, I put everything I had into it. A lot of this stuff is stuff that I've had, around for years, and finally got it together and put it out there and did it myself. I've always played and with, other, with bands and everybody else, and had fun with it. So it wasn't like you're really putting your soul and effort out there. But this is really the first time that I've, all right, this is all me. I'm putting it all in, and you put it out there, and you're absolutely on the money, Chris. I mean, it's scary, and but there's only one, if you don't do it, you'll never experience it. So you got to be the, in my opinion, the man in the arena, and
Mm-hmm.
not sitting on the outside. If if that's your thing, I guess. And yeah,
Yeah.
I,
And well, because that does make me wonder. Because this, as someone who's been around music their entire life, but this is your first album, what was unexpected about the process of creating the album?
yeah. Um, what was unexpected about the creation of it? It's a great question. Um, I guess the it wasn't really unexpected, but it was really joyful. Just the people that were involved in it, the talent level that of the people that came in and played on it, and the production of it. I really what really spurred me back into music after a long time was I actually got into these online collaborations. You're always, when you're playing and you're somewhere, and you really need a certain piece of something, and you don't have it in your hometown. You just don't have it. But when you go online, you can connect. And I started connecting with all these talented people. And so just it was really, I guess, to answer your question, what was unexpected is that that you can, the talent level, the people that you can bring in to really make magic, I think, on a record, when you get the right pieces together. And that's really, I think, what happened on this album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And you know, it's hard to say, but like when you now that you have, as the finished project is going to be coming out soon, you know, where does it, rank as far as what your expectation was and what the reality is?
You mean the finished product, the song?
Yeah, yeah.
But beyond my expectations. I mean, by all my I've never gone through this process before, and I, I really didn't, to be honest, Chris, I knew it had, it was one of these things that you just had in, I had in me, and I've got all these songs and something I really felt like I just needed to do, and get it out there. I was, kind of had the finished product in my mind, but, again, I've never worked with this level of talent before and this level of quality, and these folks in Nashville. And, it was just an incredible process to be able to take these songs in there, kind of give them a description. Okay, here's what we want here, 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 and here. And then just watch them, exceed that even, in the parts that they played. And, it was just an amazing experience for me, from that front. And then, you talk about getting chills. I can tell you there's nothing, more exciting when you write a song and you write a part. I would like MIDI out a little, hey, this is how I'd like this violin to sound here, and then listen to it one time. And then she goes in the back and just, blows that away. It's just, it'll give you chills. And it's something special about having talented people play your music. And for me, that was just an extraordinary experience for me. And I'll always be thankful, for the experience of these people and their contributions. It's awesome.
But I also wonder, like, how good are you at letting go of control? Because I've talked to other musicians who, especially when it was their first album,
Yeah.
and they'd really built up songs in their mind exactly how it would go. But then you either you put a band together, you're already with a band, and a lot of guys, especially songwriters, had trouble with letting go and someone saying, you know what, I think this would be a better guitar part for the bridge, whatever it was. How were you with that?
I would like to think that I was a little bit that I was firm when I needed to be for me, for my vision to end up right. That I was open enough to where because there's some parts in here, that I had not envisioned. A few parts where they would come in and they would improvise and do something, and I would, was blown away in a few cases. Like, we got to get that in the record. So I think you've got to be, firm enough, strong enough to hold your vision, hold the song together the way that you want it, but open enough to let these people be creative when they feel something. Because there's a few moments where they kind of, went off and did something that was, maybe not, but, but then they would catch lightning and it's just awesome. All right, well, let's do that. Let's do it this way. And that's kind of when magic happened. I think if you go in there and be so restrictive and you go, it's just me, this is it, don't even think about doing it another way, you would lose out on a lot of creativity, especially working with these amazing people. Why not let them do their thing? So I think you have to be both, but you can't let it go so far down the road that you lose your your song. So I never let the song get away. It's always my song, my arrangements, everything. But I think when these amazing people get in there and do something extraordinary, I think we're flexible enough to capture that. So I think we got all the good stuff.
Yeah. And then the common theme with this album is you seemed a very adept at studying people. I mean, there's big themes going on here, and Lord knows, so many songwriters write about big themes, but it's not everyone that writes about the individual. And be it, fictional characters or based on people you've actually seen, again, with Down That Road and the the broken gambler versus the guy who's on his way to Vegas, or the I'm forgetting the song, but the guy who has the sick child and essentially is selling his soul to help his family
when it's done.
Yeah. Are you someone that just naturally studies people and I don't know, almost kind of creates stories in your mind when you see them out in public?
That's an amazing, observation. I don't know what, I do think I'm kind of a people studier person. I've been known to tell stories here and there and embellish stories about people. I've been telling the same stories to friends and stuff for, a million years now. And, I keep, God knows if they're even true at this point, but, I think I do. I am somebody who I kind of pay attention, I guess, in a certain way, way people think, way they react to things. And, uh, I like to think I'm a, decent storyteller, and I think you have to be, to be a songwriter. And I think that kind of person is the type of person that makes a good songwriter. So it's interesting you say that, because I never really kind of put the two together, but I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I would almost be. I would like love to like hang out on a park bench with you and like find out what you notice about each person as they go by.
Well, let's do it in a bar. I mean,
Okay, that'd be more interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah,
Chattanooga. Come on, and we'll go do a study.
yeah. There you go. I mean, because it almost reminds me of like I read this piece on about Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote all the Sherlock Holmes stories, and eventually he kind of became like his character in that he could look at someone and kind of tell what their occupation was based on, all right, there's an ink stain on their sleeve or things of that nature, and listening to these songs, it's like it almost seems like you're kind of the same way, just but with, okay, I noticed that, this person looks a little disheveled in this way, or, the way they reach for their glass is a little bit haphazard, or, the slur of a word here and there. And, it's, and I know you had and ran your own business. Was this all still kind of going through your mind even when you were a business owner, or was it kind of separate? Well, I turn it on or I turn it off.
I don't think you ever turn it off. I think that kind of, personal observation, if you will, is important in business as well. I mean, it's super important in business. When you are, relationships are everything. Building relationships with customers, with employees, with coworkers, with everything, getting deals done. I mean, you need to be able to read the room. You need to be able to understand, what needs to be said, when, and you need to be able to read people's expressions and understand what they're feeling when you say something. And if they're cringing, you need to go another direction. Or if they're liking it, continue on. So I think yeah. And again, I do think, again, I have the benefit, Chris, of, kind of doing this later in life, but having all of that experience from, all of the social interaction that I've had throughout my life, but also all the business interaction as well. And so I'm luckier than, I would say, younger folks that do their first album or start writing their own songs, and that, they don't have as much to draw on, maybe. So I'd like to think that a lot of that lifelong experience and, people reading and situation reading, maybe that comes through, maybe I'd like to think that does in the music anyway.
Yeah, and I'm also curious what advantage being an established business person and that experience helped with the business side of your music, because again, that's an old trope. Is there's a lot of kids who get signed, right in their 20s, know nothing about business and end up signing bad contracts with people and things of that nature, or just
Sure.
don't know how to handle money. They don't know how to budget or any of that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of fascinating that you've proven yourself in that area before heading into the music industry.
Yeah. And I think it takes a lot of pressure off of me. I'm not, I can't imagine, these young artists that are 20 years old. First of all, they've got to be creative. They have to have so much time built into their craft and their art. But, there is a huge business side to this too. I mean, the whole promotional side and the creation side and not getting ripped off and all of that kind of stuff. And the business world it's a whole nother skill set. Just because you're a great musician doesn't mean you're going to be a great, business person. So
Right.
having to juggle the two, it's a big skill set. I think you see people like, I just recently watched this, Beatles documentary, and you can tell those guys, they're sharp. They're great musicians, but they also, I think they handle their business well, and they got involved early with some good people, early on as well. For me, just getting started on the music side of things, but already I think I have a huge advantage in none of that side of the things is a mystery to me. So I
Yeah.
have the advantage of being able to really focus a little more on the music side, not have to be freaked out by what's going on the business side.
Right. And it's interesting because you have the song "Here I Come" and then the song "Hang My Head," which
Mhm.
they both bookend the album,
Mhm.
and they both seem to reflect your own personal story.
Yes.
And I know this is just beginning, but it's quite the leap of faith that you've made with this. And I'm curious, in what ways has it already been worth it?
Man, that's a great. I tell you this, Chris. Just having this conversation with you, and you having this. I mean, seriously. I mean, not just this today, but I mean, just what I'm getting at is when I've never had the experience of just sharing my music, my vision, my art, and having people react to it and see how they really feel about it. Yeah, I've played in a lot of bands. It's been an amazing over the years, but it's you mentioned earlier, is it scary to get it out there? It is, but if you don't, you'll never get somebody. I mean, it's amazing for me to have someone like you, jump in and evaluate the music and appreciate it and feel the same things that I was feeling and getting some of the things that I'm trying to convey. I mean, it's really, really a rewarding uh, process. So, what's been worth it? It's been exactly that, to have people hear the music and react to it, and that's why you do it. I mean, so, and for me, it doesn't need to be a zillion people. I don't need to be Ed Sheeran for that.
Hmm.
I revel in just just the direct interaction and the response from it. It's really rewarding.
Yeah. And I mean, so is the plan also to hit the road a little bit more once this album comes out and, bring it to people?
Absolutely. We're putting that together now, and we're putting together a tour schedule that should start in November, and get the details out of that soon. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think I could just put out a record and not go play live, because you know
Yeah.
you miss out on a lot there. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting out and following up, and yeah, if I got up there and play, and if I ever have a sing along where people sing my music back to me, that'll be the that'll be the moment, I think. So
Yeah, I did an interview with this guy who was part of this band called The Wind and the Wave, and he said you get to the point where to have people sing your own lyrics back to you. He said that's the best feeling ever.
I, yeah, never had that happen. Well, I've had it happen
Yeah.
on some very stupid songs, like they wrote back in the past, but
Yeah.
we wrote a song, simply, a band I used to play with. Just simply, we'd get thirsty. We'd want to need some beer, during the
Yeah.
break. I think we wrote a song called "Buy the Band a Beer" at one time. So that's the extent of my sing along.
All right. And as again, this is all kind of beginning, but
Mhm.
as you start to talk to more people about the songs you recorded and start to do more interviews and things like that,
Mhm.
um, is there stuff that you're starting to notice about all of this that maybe you didn't realize before, as you're kind of asked to explain who you are as a musician and your vision? Is it has it, I'm not phrasing this well, but has it kind of been a process of discovery for you as well as for the person interviewing you?
Absolutely. I'm, like I said, I'm completely new to this. I mean, I've never had, this is my second interview. So I've never,
Hmm.
I've never been interviewed on this side of the fence and had somebody, ask me about my music, but I love it. I love, talking about this stuff. And, I just really appreciate you appreciating it and asking the questions you did. Because, yeah, you do it, but you do it so that you can share it with other people. So for people, interviewers or fans or whomever to dive into it. I'm to interact with them and to talk about it. It's just been great.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm also always curious how much of lyric writing for you is inspiration and how much of it is perspiration? How much of it is, oh, I just got this idea for a great line, and how much of it is, all right, I'm going to sit down and really work on this?
I think I would answer that by saying when I write a song, typically, as far as lyrically, I have almost no lyrics, but I have like a melody. I will, I'll get a song and I will hum the melody, and then I will craft the lyrics to it. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to figure out what will fit, and get those lyrics to fit. Sometimes it falls right in, and a lot of times, I guess one thing I would put it is the way I would write songs. And you asked me earlier about how this worked, like with business. Well, I used to travel. I'd be in planes, or I'd be driving, and I always used to keep my little voice recorder on my phone. That's the greatest app of all time, by the way.
Yes.
And then
Oh,
you hear something, feel something, and I'll be in a car, it's raining and the windshield wipers are got a beat, and I'll come up with something and I'll hum it, and have while I'm on the road, and then I'll go back to the studio. And, one of the five things is really good, and so I start the songs like that, like,
mm-hmm.
and back up from the hook, like that. So,
Right, right.
and that's really not really even a lyric or a meaningful lyric. Usually it's just a melody or a hook, and then build a song, and then build the lyrics around what I think the song, how it feels, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're in good company in that. I guess it was last year or 2 years ago that the Doobie Brothers released this album called Liberté, and it's really fantastic. And that's what they did was they like laid down all the music tracks and
Yeah.
then decided, okay, what are the lyrics going to be?
Interesting.
And so, and I'm so used to finding people like, oh, no, it's the lyric, or maybe it's a melody hook, but usually they're done in tandem. So the idea that you're another person that, no, I want to feel the way the song goes before I start adding the words is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and Paul McCartney, I was thinking some, I always loved that, that Get Back, and he's kind of just going, "Ah, ah, ah,"
Yeah, right.
Ringo's like, "Get Back,"
Yeah,
kind of how it goes, so.
right.